Hey guys, welcome to the live stream. Oh, let me get the mic over here. Welcome to the live stream. My name's Josh. Cultivate your best self. Cultivate your best self is about seeking a deeper knowledge of yourself, who you aspire to become, and how and why you value time and money. Today I'm going to be talking about. Oh no, it says side hustles in the beginning. What? Why does it say that? Oh, you know what? It's because I didn't update the. Yeah, it's not about side hustles. Today's about mental strength. There we go. um, so a couple things before I get started. Go ahead and grab a drink or a snack, while before we get started here. But one is, as you can probably tell, I'm recovering from a sty on my eye. It's definitely gotten better since how it was a few days ago. Actually, it started on Friday, but man, this thing was painful. I can kind of see it on the streaming platform that I'm using. But yeah, it's starting to get better. I've been a friend of mine suggested putting a tea bag over it after you've kind of steeped it in some hot water, but specifically chamomile tea, or it has to be like the chamomile tea bags. And so I started using it, and it's been improving since I started doing that. So some good news. And then today's live session is inspired by a TED talk that I watched that was done by Amy Morin, and it's all about mental strength and some of the pitfalls that people that we tend to fall into when it comes to ways that kind of compromise our mental strength. So let's get into this. I'm excited to be. Thank you. You know what, I wanted to see, because a friend of mine joined, I want to say last week, and there was a delay. I know that there was a delay on when I get the comments from people. So I wanted to see really quickly if I can adjust that. I don't know if I have to adjust that beforehand. Let me take a quick look at it. Appearances, stream output audio, how to advanced? No. Stream delay. Oh, here we go. Stream delay is actually not enabled. Huh. I thought there was a delay though, so I don't know. Maybe I'm taking too long to reply to to people who comment, but it should be okay. All right, let's get into this. Mental strength. I'm going to start by introducing Amy Morin, and let me share my background. I'm gonna turn this off and minimize my window, and I will make that full screen. There we go. So really quickly, Amy Morin is a psychotherapist. She's a mental strength trainer and an international best-selling author. I actually didn't have a chance to look up what books she's written, but I do know that she advocates for the fact that mental strength really requires training, just like you would train your physical strength, right? You need to go to the gym, you need to put in the reps to build strength, and she believes the same is true for your mental strength. You need to develop certain habits that you have to put the reps in, and over time you become more and more mentally stronger. And so I want to share a little bit about her mom's story, her husband's story, and then talk about this list that she says really helped her get through some tough times that she went through. So the first thing is her mom's story, which is pretty devastating. She talks about this in the TED Talk, but essentially, her mom was 51 years old, and she had a brain aneurysm. The day before her mom had the brain aneurysm, they had gone to a basketball game, and she went back home with her husband, and And then she gets a call saying that her mom's in the hospital like the very next day. So she goes, and then she finds out that, there's nothing that they can do for her mom. And this is when she's 24 years old. I believe she had just finished school or was getting close to finishing school, and she was already married. And yeah, and she loses her mom. And it was a devastating period in her life, because your mom is someone that you're supposed to be able to go to for to talk through things, and have someone like your mom be there for you. And for her, it was just it caught her by surprise, and she wasn't, something that she completely wasn't expecting. And she had a really rough time for that year after she had lost her mom. So around the year mark, her friends had invited her to another basketball game, and her husband, this is moving on to her husband's story, had encouraged her to go. And so, she was just barely starting to feel a bit better about, going out. And so she decides to go, because she thinks, it'll be a great way to celebrate, the one of the very last times that she saw her mom. It's in the where she was going to go watch the basketball game was in the same like stadium or arena that she had previously gone. It was like the last place that she saw her mom. And so she goes, and she ends up having a really great time, with her friends, catching up, talking about stories about her mom. And she was really glad that her husband had kind of pushed her to go on that, that outing, because I don't think she had been she hadn't gone out very much, prior to that. And so it was kind of like a what's the word I'm looking for? It was closure for her in a way. And so, she that night they go back home, and her husband, says that he's having trouble breathing. And so my wife's listening to the story, and she's like, "Oh boy, here we go." So her husband, has trouble breathing that night that they come back from that basketball game with their friends. And she ends up calling the ambulance. The ambulance comes, picks him up, takes him to the hospital, and she's there all night. And they tell her, we can't allow you to go see him, because we're operating on him, and we just can't have you in there. And so she's waiting hours. And come, I don't remember if it's morning time or what time it is, but it had been a bunch of hours before the doctor finally came out and had to tell her, "I'm sorry, we did everything that we could possibly do, but your husband's gone." And within a year or a couple year period, she loses her mom and she loses her husband. And in that moment, so her husband had a heart attack. But in that moment, she started to think, this is one of those times where you're supposed to have your mom in your life to be able to go to and kind of grieve that you've just lost the love of your life. And she didn't have that, right? She had only recently kind of like come to terms with the fact that she had lost her mom. And then here we go, life throws another curveball at her, and she loses her husband. When she was telling the story, I don't know how she didn't cry on stage, but I think she, well, she's a psychotherapist, and I'm sure she has developed incredible mental strength, but man, like, I think if I were telling that story, I probably would have started crying. But wow, like, what a story, right? Like, to lose two people that you love so dearly within such a close period, or what feels like a really close period, right? Like, within a couple of years, it's tough. And so when she lost her husband, she talks about making this list, because she knew that she was going to be in this place where it was going to be difficult to get out of, right? Like, when we experience major life changing losses like this, it can be really easy to give in to that type of grief that you're feeling, right? And she talks about creating this list that mentally strong people do. And basically, what she says is, what would mentally strong people not do? And she creates that list. Mentally strong people would not dwell on their losses. They wouldn't, she creates this list, and she doesn't really share what's on the list, but, or maybe she does. Maybe I didn't write it down, but essentially, you do the things that are opposite of what a mentally strong person wouldn't do. And so I want to kind of get into some research findings that she found, and let's go ahead and go on to that. So what do we know? We know that comparing ourselves to others leads to depression and anxiety. But I'd be willing to bet that anyone that watches this probably does it themselves. I'm guilty of doing it. And I'll give you an example. Lately, I've been feeling not so good about myself because I'm at a point in my life where I've essentially decided for myself that the status quo is not enough, or it's not. I have more potential that I see in myself, that I can do much better for me and my family. But a lot of my friends, like they're in a better place in life, but I can tell that they're really unhappy with the work that they do. But they have significant others, they've purchased homes. There are certain things about their lives that make me feel like I'm behind. And so, occasionally, like, I'll think about that, but I don't let it get to me, right? Because I'm confident in my ability to change my circumstances, because I don't dwell on those facts. Because I foresee myself like 5 years down the line in a much better position than they're in, because I chose to follow a different path. I chose to go against the grain. I chose to not follow what society dictates is like the path that we should follow, which is like go to school, get a job, work that job for 30, 40 years. And even in our current times, like kind of job hopping so that your salary kind of like increases a little bit more than it would if you were to stay in the same job. There's other opportunities out there currently that can make you money kind of exponentially. And I have no doubts in my ability to be able to tap into that. It's just going to take me time. And I've had to kind of take a step back from where I was, right? Like I left like the corporate world. I no longer have a 9 to 5, and I'm working on building something myself. But that puts me back at the bottom, right? And putting yourself back at the bottom can be really easy to compare yourself to where other people are, at your same age or same level, right? Especially like my same age, like friends that are like near the age that I am, like they're comparatively doing better than I am, because right now I don't have an income. I'm kind of working by myself, building something, and like slowly it's going to take me time to get to where I want to go. But I do that occasionally, right? I compare myself to them, and and it can be sometimes discouraging, but the key is to not let it get to you. Like, you have to stop yourself from doing it, because otherwise you can easily let it consume you. Excuse me. And then sometimes we can't help thinking that someone else has all the luck. It's especially easy in our social media driven world right now, where like you go on TikTok, you go on Instagram, YouTube, it seems like everyone else out there is doing way better than you. At least, when I go on there, I'm actually looking for people that are doing better than me so I can learn from them. But But for others, like if they're in a like a self pity party, like that's not gonna help them out mentally, right? It's gonna increase the chances of them getting depression and anxiety, because look, like they're lucky, like they have whatever it is, like the family, the job, the money, the house, the cars. Social media loves to portray like these really like flashy lives that people are living, these lives of like traveling all the time, trying all these like expensive foods, and traveling first class, and it's all out there, right? And seeing all that can be incredibly discouraging, especially if you're not as like financially fortunate, or if you're not able to travel. Whatever you're experiencing, seeing yourself and comparing yourself to those people that are doing that can be incredibly discouraging. And we have to be careful not to do it as much. But you know with people trying to spend all their with people like spending a lot of their time on their phones, and tied to social media, it's like it's hard not to, right? I want to get into the three destructive beliefs. The first one is having unhealthy beliefs about ourselves. Beliefs like, I'm not good enough, I can't do it, I'm a failure, I am unlovable, I'm a burden to other people. I can almost guarantee you that every single person you've ever met has had one of these thoughts, myself included, right? Like growing up, I like high school, like middle school, high school, like I developed really bad acne, and I used to think, I was ugly. I was an ugly person, and that no one would ever love me. And so, I used to think, I'm unlovable. Like there's just, I can have this great personality. I can be intelligent, athletic, whatever it is. And despite that, like I'm still not going to be good enough. And I had that thought in my head for many, many years. And it wasn't until I started college that I really wanted to kind of create a new identity for myself. And so I became much more extroverted, and got to meet people, and through that process I became much more confident in myself. But there was something that happened the very last summer between high school and college. I took a really controversial drug, uh, and this drug was responsible for a lot of suicides. And when I went to my dermatologist, he even had me sign a waiver and notified me that this could potentially lead to suicide. So I just need I need you to just sign this disclaimer form because it's happened. It's happened before, and I don't think that I know for sure that that drug is not on the market anymore. But it completely like cleared up my acne. I still get occasional acne, obviously, but like not nearly as bad as I used to. And that was like ever since I took that drug. And that's why I think I was able to kind of establish that new identity for myself, because I had like much clearer skin, and I just overall felt more confident in myself. But it took me, even after all those years of putting myself down, it still took a lot of effort for me to not believe what I believed about myself. Like even though I was creating this new identity and kind of trying to portray it by being more extroverted, like I still had those beliefs about myself internally. I just didn't broadcast it externally. Having all these unhealthy beliefs about ourselves magnifies our perceived misfortune. And I myself felt that when I was younger, and I'm sure a lot of you have as well. And all that does is it keeps us stuck in that, living kind of like that same negative loop of emotions that are keeping us mentally weak. and it keeps us focused on the problems, right? Like some of the more, if you think of someone who's mentally strong, like they're not going to be focused on problems. They're going to be focused on solutions, trying to come up with proper solutions to the problems that they're experiencing. And one thing you guys should know is that there are always steps you can take to make life better for yourself or others. Let's go to belief number 2. Unhealthy beliefs about others. We think others have control over us. And some of you might be wondering, like, what do you mean control over us? Well, one of the simplest ways I can explain it is that we tend to give away our power to other people. Especially people that either we work for, like saying like, our job or our boss, people who are, in our families. If you have, like, I know that there are certain toxic relationships within families, and because they're family, it can feel like we don't have a choice in the family that we've had. But that's not the case. There's a lot of like resilient stories of people who have found incredible success and having to part ways with certain members of their family because they either are of kind of like cut from two different cloths, or they just are incapable of changing who they are. So they had to part ways. And one of the examples that I think of is this story that my wife read about. Actually, I don't remember if they parted ways with, if the family parted ways, but there was this girl who was really intelligent, but her parents were kind of like, they chose a life of like, what's it called? Like they traveled a lot, but they were kind of like homeless. They like camped out, and I forget what the term is, but yeah, it was like really terrible conditions for the kids. But despite that, like they found incredible success in what they chose to pursue in their lives. And
Was the book The Glass Castle?
my wife says it was a book called The Glass Castle. But yeah, that's one of the examples that I think of. And then some examples that I have here are, like when you say I have to work late. Oh, excuse me. I have to work late, or I have to do this for my boss. You're giving up your power because you are in a position where, something might be at risk. And so because something might be at risk, you're giving up your power to your boss or to your company, and by doing that, you may not feel like you're in control, and it can lead to like, destructive beliefs about others. Let's move on to destructive belief number 3. Unhealthy beliefs about the world. People tend to believe that the world owes us something. It doesn't owe you anything, right? You have to work for what you want in this life. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get what you work for, right? And that's something that people have a hard time coming to terms with. If I work hard, I deserve success. And having a view like that is just going to lead you to disappointment. And something that I want to add here is that a lot of the more successful people that I personally follow develop a process that they enjoy. And as long as they follow that process and trust in that process, it eventually leads them to the success that they're looking for. But you have to be smart about it too, right? You can't just have a process and follow it blindly. You have to reflect on, what you're doing throughout the process and find little ways to tweak it so that when you don't get the outcome that you're looking for, you can tweak that process so that you have a better chance of coming to terms or getting the outcome that you're looking for. Is what I'm trying to say. Let's move on to mental strength tips. I think we might finish this one early. There's there wasn't as much, I was hoping to share more stories, I guess, with some of the things that were on these bullet points, but I'm kind of flying through these much quicker than I expected. But some of the mental strength tips that Amy suggests is to embrace uncomfortable emotions. Uh, a lot of us today go to great lengths at trying to bury or distract ourselves from our emotions. And we typically do that by spending our time, watching TV shows, movies, uh, um, scrolling on social media, you name it. Like, there are plenty of ways in our world today to distract ourselves from our uncomfortable emotions. And this makes it incredibly difficult to get out of this like mental weakness cycle. And a lot of us don't realize that what we need to do is to do things that really get us to explore our deeper emotions and our uncomfortable emotions. And you have to be willing to kind of like let yourself feel those uncomfortable emotions and understand why you're feeling them. And the more you do this, the more you develop your self awareness around these negative emotions. And the more that you have the ability to start to discover solutions to either cope with those, uncomfortable emotions, to find strategies um, to kind of get yourself mentally stronger. And but if we don't face them, like, and we end up burying them, like, it's just going to build and build to something that becomes unmanageable, and then we get these like panic attacks, right? It's one of the reasons why there's so much depression and anxiety in our society, especially in our younger generations. The generations that are currently coming up, they I think right now, anxiety and depression is plaguing them the most. And one of the reasons is because they have such easy access to all this social media, right? And it's so easy for them to compare themselves to others. It's so easy right now, especially for, younger generations that are kind of putting themselves out there, to expose themselves to cyberbullying. And cyberbullying, like, people, you can be anonymous and bully someone, and it's really terrible that people have this, um I don't know if it's desire or like inclination to just like bully someone. And that's just the society that we live in. And I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't think I could handle, like, people putting me down, or people like cussing me out, or whatever it might be. Like, I'm mentally stronger than that, right? Like, it just like it's a like an arrow off my shield, right? Like, I've had years to develop my mental strength. And it's just, I don't know, it's tough. It can be tough, right? The second bullet point here is practice gratitude. And one of the ways that I like to do this is to take the time to think about what's good in my life. And I had a really great habit of writing down my daily, I called it, what did I call it? I called it like my life story, or daily stories. Oops. I think I called it daily stories. Let me move this over here. Oh, daily highlight. My daily highlights. So I had a really great um, habit of every single day writing down one thing that was positive, or like a good takeaway from the day. And I I've fallen off this since my son was born. I think the last time I wrote something was it was 3 days ago. So I've missed a few days. But up until my son was born, I have over a year's worth of daily highlights. And I'm trying to at least, do one a week now. It's just it's tougher with the things that I'm currently doing on the side, like trying to build a business and you know moving away from the corporate life that I was living, and just like having to take care of my son. My wife's back at work now, so I have a little bit more. We don't have a sitter, and we don't have daycare, so I'm taking on a little bit more responsibility. My wife, she's still um, she still helps out a lot, and that's helpful. But with how busy we are, it's just tough for me to kind of like come onto my second brain and go to my daily highlights and just add it in. I should be able to do it, and actually I actually started a different habit where uh, I can't call it a habit now, but just in this thing, writing, just writing daily thoughts, like free thought, and just trying to gain clarity on where I am in my life, and kind of write down some of the outcomes that I'm looking to. My dog just brought a toy to the base of my foot. Just trying to write out things about what I expect out of life over the next several years, up to 5 years, and having this free write. Like, I've known for a long time that writing is such a huge benefit, right? It engages both sides of your brain, the logical, rational side, and then the more creative side, the side that it is more uh, is more prone to finding solutions, creative solutions to certain things. And writing kind of slows you down, like physically writing slows your brain down, slows your thought process down, and it's much better for gaining clarity on a lot of things in your life. And the same is true for developing mental strength and practicing gratitude, right? If you take the time to write out things that you're thankful for and review them from time to time, you're gonna have better mental strength, right? You're gonna be happier. You're gonna realize that there are certain things that you have to be thankful for, and that's one of the ways that can really boost your mental strength. Oh, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. There's another baby cockroach. Yeah, but that's sorry about that. Um, Ever since the neighbor moved out from down below us, they replaced the carpeting and did this whole like cleaning and stuff. And ever since then, we've been seeing like little baby cockroaches in our apartment. And anytime I see one, like I have to kill it. So that's what I just did. The I was on the third bullet point here. Give up resenting someone else's success. Ooh, that's tough to say. Someone else's success, which is essentially, right, comparing yourself to others. Um, this is something that I definitely do from time to time. I don't necessarily resent, but I see where other people are in their journey of growth and success. Especially people that I'm learning from. And sometimes I tell myself, like, why can't I just be there? Why can't I just like snap my finger and like just have that success that they're already seeing? But then I have to remind myself, like they started this. They started their journey like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and they've been consistently working hard at trying to get to where they are. And so, you know, the way I see it is like they've earned their success, right? They've developed the grit and the discipline and the intrinsic motivation that they needed to get to where they wanted to be. And so that's what I admire about, where they are. And I'm like, you know what, I need those qualities. And so, I need to put in the work. I need to develop, my program. I need to develop the grit, the discipline, the intrinsic motivation to get to where I want to be. And it's going to take failures. It's going to take, lapses in mental strength, right? Like there's going to be moments where I'm feeling discouraged, but I got to kind of pick myself back up, because the people around me, like they're not really, they're not of the mindset that like anything that I'm trying to accomplish is possible. And so I rely on myself, and I rely on what I see from people that I follow to really lift me up and to prove that what I want to achieve is completely possible and within the realm of possibility. But I need to have the mental strength. I need to believe in myself, and I need to continue being consistent with the actions that I'm taking to get there. And then the last thing is to just start doing things that mentally tough people do. You just maybe doing a quick Google search, and you know what? Let's just do it right now, since we have a little bit of extra time. Let me do this. That didn't do anything. Why didn't that do anything? Bookmark lists. Show bookmarks bar, and then hide. Wow, that doesn't do anything. Okay, let me do this. It still has it. Oh my gosh. I want to hide it, but oh well, whatever. That's weird. Okay. What do mentally strong people do? 13 things mentally strong parents don't do. Oh, that's not really what I'm looking for. Rather than rigidly following self-imposed rules, mentally strong people are more open, can choose more freely, and are likelier to explore new possibilities. 4 qualities of mentally strong people. Oh, here, Amy Morin. Oh, but her list is 13 things mentally strong people don't do. Oh, I like this. This is a great list. This is perfect, right? They don't waste time feeling sorry for themselves. Mentally strong people don't sit around feeling sorry about their circumstances or how others have treated them. Instead, they take responsibility for their role in life and understand that life isn't always easy. Let's go over each of these. I won't read, the paragraph, but I'll go over the main points. Mentally strong people don't give away their power. They don't shy away from change. They don't waste energy on things they can't control. I did a YouTube video on the things that we have direct control over, and it's your attitude, your effort, and your behavior. Everything else is kind of out of our control. Don't worry about pleasing everyone. Don't fear taking calculated risks. Calculated risks. One of the things is like people have like, they're really scared. Well, okay, let me take a step back. The friends that I have that are scared of leaving their jobs, or like they know they want to quit, but they can't because they have financial responsibilities, right? But there are ways for them to take calculated risks that over time would allow them to leave their jobs and find something, doing something much that they would be much happier doing. But I don't know if they necessarily think that it's possible, right? Because otherwise they would have started doing this a while ago. Yeah, I don't know. Like it can be scary, right? It can be scary, and like fear leads to like us just doing things that are just more comfortable, and things that we know, like that, people are scared to get out of their comfort zone, right? And so you have to be willing to leave that comfort zone to be able to take those calculated risks. And some people are just not willing to do that because either they don't have the training or the knowledge to be able to believe that it's possible to get what they want. Don't dwell on the past. This is one. This is one that I really see a lot of with the the mentors that I follow. And one thing that I constantly see is them simply saying don't dwell on the past, but they don't really give any practical tips as to how we can move on from the past. Excuse me. So I'm gonna read what she says here. See, mentally strong people don't waste time dwelling on the past and wishing things could be different. They acknowledge their past and can say what they've learned from it. So I think that's a really good thing to do about things in your past that you're not necessarily proud of, or that that you felt like was a failure and you wish you could go back and change it. Instead, write about, I would say, write about the event, in the past that you're dwelling on, and then after you write about that event, write what you learned from it, and then carry only that moving forward. And I think that that's really a great way to kind of stop thinking about that event, right? Like you've written out your thoughts about that event, and so you've kind of gotten it out of your head, right? It can be a really great way of just like freeing up cognitive space, and kind of like think of it as like someone that's taking up rent in your brain, and you want to kind of like kick them out. So you write about that event and you're kicking them out and you're putting them onto the page, and then you write about what you learned from it, and then what you learn from it is like the more positive person that is kind of taking up that space in your brain, and only focus on that positive, or that experience, what you learned, and just remember to consider that when some type of similar situation comes up, that you can use your past experience to make a better decision the next time. So that was don't dwell on the past. Don't make the same mistakes over and over. Someone that I admire, kind of. I mean, he kind of has an extreme view on life, but Alex Hormozy talks about this idea that if you continue to make the same mistake over and over again, you're dumb. He just flat out says you're dumb. You have to be exposed to the same situation and change your behavior so that you get a different result. And so that you get the result that you want. But if you continue to make this, take the same action or do the same behavior with the same set of circumstances, then you're just simply dumb. And he doesn't go deep into like the psychology of things. You're not dumb. And I think I don't know if he understands this or not, but you're essentially kind of allowing the stress of whatever it is take over, right? Like you have trouble emotionally regulating, or you don't understand that your amygdala, which releases a hormone that is kind of like a stress, or a response to stress, overrides your prefrontal cortex, the front part of your brain that is kind of like there for executive function, right? To allow you to make rational decisions. It overrides that, and that that makes it essentially makes people do the make the same mistakes over and over again. And so if you're not trained to properly deal with the emotions and the stress that comes from needing to perform a behavior that changes your circumstances, then it can be tough to change, right? It can be stressful to change. It can cause, anxiety and depression and all these things. But yeah, to simply say don't make the same mistakes over and over again, there's more to it than that. And let's see what she says. They accept responsibility for their behavior and learn from their past mistakes. As a result, they don't keep repeating those mistakes over and over. Instead, they move on and make better decisions in the future. Yeah, see, I think people need they need either education or training on ways to deal with your emotions and the stress that comes from dealing with change or performing behaviors that can be stressful. It's not just stop making the same mistakes. No, there's a little bit more to it. They don't resent other people's success. I think that's pretty straightforward. People are on a different journey than you, and just because you don't have what they have doesn't mean you can't get it. Doesn't mean you don't have the ability to get it. It's just it might take you some time to get there, and just because, like, I've been seeing a lot of people that are much more successful than I am, 10 years younger than I am, and we're all on different journeys in life, and I don't regret the life that I've lived. I wish I had been more aware of how powerful personal growth and kind of this idea of self-management, knowledge management, self-awareness, all the things that I cover on my channel. I wish I would have been more aware of how important these things are for cultivating what I define as success, not necessarily anybody else, but that leads to uh, better health, wealth, and relationships overall. And I think in my life I've cultivated really great health and relationships, but my wealth is kind of lagging behind, and just that's kind of what I'm applying most of what I'm learning, especially because I started this journey last year, like really kind of bogged down, and told myself, you know what, nothing's gonna stop me from getting to where I want to be financially 5 years from now. And ever since I started that journey, it's been a learning process. But again, like, I wish I would have told myself that like 10 years ago. And I made some mistakes, right? I got into a crazy amount of debt, and I've since reduced that debt by a lot. But currently, I have no income. Well, actually, that's, yeah, currently I have no income. I'm relying on my wife, who's right now at the moment the sole provider, but I'm hoping to change that very soon, with this business that I'm planning to launch very soon. They don't give up after their first failure. You don't view failure as a reason to give up. Instead, they use failure as an opportunity to grow and improve. And this, I think, this kind of is in line with don't dwell on the past, right? Because when you fail, now that failure is in the past, and it's really easy to dwell on why you failed, or put yourself down, I wasn't good enough, or whatever it might be. But again, you have to kind of write about the situation, get that tenant out of your head, write about that situation, and then write what you learned from it, and take that with you and carry that with you. They don't fear alone time. This is a kind of a tricky one. So I've recently, maybe not recently, I've kind of known this for a while, but I know that there are people out there that simply can't be alone. They have a fear, right, of coming to terms with their own thoughts about themselves, about their situation, whatever it might be, and they find ways to distract themselves. And one of the most common ways is actually, like, there are certain extroverted people that I know that use that extrovertedness to constantly be trying to do something with other people, hanging out with other people, to avoid that alone time. And because, they simply can't handle whatever internal uh, issues that they're dealing with. It's just they'd rather, distract themselves. And that can be a way of kind of holding themselves back. I don't know. I kind of want to read what she says here. Mentally strong people can tolerate being alone, and they don't fear silence. They aren't afraid to be alone with their thoughts, and they can use downtime to be productive. They enjoy their own company and aren't dependent on others for companionship and entertainment all the time, but instead can be happy alone. And I think a lot of this has to do with kind of accepting yourself as you are, and being at a point where you believe in yourself, you're confident in yourself, and just overall you love yourself. And that's more than a lot of people can say for themselves. Don't feel Oh, they don't feel the world owes them anything. They don't feel Suzanne says, "Oh wow, sounds like me." I'm not sure which part. I I didn't see that comment come up, but not afraid of being alone. Oh, excuse me. Whew. They don't feel the world owes them anything. They don't feel entitled to things in life. They weren't born with a mentality that others would take care of them, or that the world must give them something. I think this particular one has a lot to do with people's upbringing. Like some people that are come up in an environment where the either the parents or someone in their life kind of like spoon feeds them everything. And so growing up, they have this mentality like, I'm always going to get what I want, and I should always get what I want. And it's just, I think this is more a reflection on the people that were around the person that feels like they're owed everything, and not necessarily like them themselves. And for the person themselves, like, it's more of developing self-awareness that they're the way that they're thinking about things is not necessarily a healthy way to think about things. And then the last one is, they don't expect immediate results. They don't expect immediate results. This one, everyone today expects things now, 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 right? Your Amazon deliveries, if it's not delivered today, you expect it tomorrow or within 2 days, right? Food deliveries, like, you can place a delivery or place an order on your phone so that you have food delivered to you instead of having to go out and get it yourself. Like, we live in a society where, like, now is like the operating term, and it's just destroying people's ability to appreciate delayed gratification. And without that, like, if you're someone who can appreciate and experience delayed gratification, that's going to be a competitive advantage in a world where everyone expects instant gratification. And again, like, social media is something that contributes to this, this idea that people's expectation is to get something now, 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 and not, putting work into something and experiencing the success, the fulfillment, the gratification from the hard work that you've put into something later down the line. All right, it's 7 p.m. I think that's it for this one. I think I really like where this kind of like took off from the presentation that I was doing, and that I found Amy Morin's site because this is a lot of good stuff to cover. But I hope you appreciated this live session. If you're new to my channel, please like and subscribe. It'll help me to grow. It'll help people discover me. I talk about all kinds of things that will help your own personal growth. It'll help, like not necessarily your personal growth, but it could trickle into other areas of your life. It could trickle into your health, your wealth, and your relationships. So again, give me a follow, subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you guys on Thursday. Oh, and keep learning, keep growing.